The Homeless Man Who Saved a Billionaire's Daughter. Chapter 3, The Search for a Guardian. The sun rose over Manhattan not with warmth, but with a pale, cold glare that barely cut through the heavy gray smog left behind by the storm. On the 85th floor of Sterling Global Tower, the atmosphere inside Victor Sterling's private office felt like a war room on the eve of a major campaign. Sunlight glinted off polished mahogany desks, state-of-the-art holographic displays, and wall-mounted monitors showing real-time feeds from security teams, financial markets, and news broadcasts. Victor Sterling sat behind his desk, an untouched cup of espresso sitting cold at his elbow. His hair was brushed back, his suit impeccable, but deep purple shadows under his eyes betrayed the fact that he hadn't slept a single minute since the attack. Standing opposite him was Arthur Pendleton, his chief of staff, along with Marcus Vance, whose head was now wrapped in a neat white bandage under his dark hair. Two senior cybersecurity analysts stood near a massive digital display board. "Report, Arthur," Victor commanded, his voice clipped and quiet. Arthur tapped a tablet, casting a series of low-resolution images onto the primary screen. The images were pulled from municipal traffic cameras, store security feeds, and private building monitors surrounding the meatpacking district from the night before. "We scrubbed over 400 hours of footage within a 10-block radius of West 14th Street, Arthur began, zooming in on a grainy, black and white frame. "At 10:42 p.m., your daughter's Maybach entered the alleyway. At 10:43 p.m., the three black vans executed the trap. And at 10:44 p.m., this individual emerged from the loading dock behind the old packing plant." The screen zoomed in closer. Rain obscured most of the facial detail, but the frame caught a tall, broad-shouldered silhouette clad in a ragged, oversized jacket, moving with terrifying speed toward the ambushers. "Our facial recognition algorithms struggled initially due to the grime, beard, and lighting conditions," Arthur explained. "Every public NYPD database returned 0 matches. However, when we ran the biometric skeletal structure and eye spacing through classified Department of Defense archives." Arthur paused, looking up at Victor with an expression that combined deep shock with intense professional awe. "We hit a match. A top-tier, black-level clearance file that was officially sealed and archived 7 years ago." Arthur tapped the tablet again. A dossier materialized on the screen, replacing the grainy alleyway photos. A crisp, military photograph appeared: a younger man with short, clean-cut dark hair, razor-sharp jawline, cold blue eyes, and a chest adorned with elite tactical commendations. Below the photo, bold red letters read, "File classified level 5 access only." "Name, Ethan Vance," Arthur read aloud. "Former commander of the 7th Special Operations Tactical Group, former chief executive officer and founder of Vance Security Solutions." Marcus leaned forward, his dark eyes widening as he read the dossier. "Ethan Vance, the man who built the military-grade neural firewall systems used by NATO, the man who was framed for treason 7 years ago." "The very same," Arthur confirmed. 7 years ago, Vance Security Solutions was preparing to launch a revolutionary defense network called Project Aegis. His co-founder, Julian Carter, staged an internal corporate coup. Vance was framed for selling military intelligence to foreign syndicates. His assets were seized, his reputation destroyed, and shortly after the indictments, his wife, Clara Vance, died in a targeted vehicular explosion. Victor leaned back in his leather chair, his fingers interlocked under his chin. And the charges against him mysteriously dropped 2 months after his wife's death, Arthur replied grimly. Julian Carter took control of Vance's patents, rebranded Vance Security Solutions into Carter Industries, and absorbed the defense contracts. Ethan Vance walked out of the federal courthouse a free man on paper, but a completely destroyed human being. He liquidated his remaining personal belongings, refused every settlement offer, and vanished into thin air. Official intelligence reports presumed he had either left the country or committed suicide. He didn't leave, Victor said quietly, looking at the recent photo of the ragged man in the alleyway alongside the polished military officer. He stayed right here, buried beneath the noise of the city he helped protect. It explains everything, sir, Marcus said, his tone filled with immense respect. The way he moved in that alley, it wasn't street fighting. It was high-level counter-ambush doctrine. He dismantled 6 mercenary operators from Aegis Security which, as we know, is Julian Carter's private muscle. So Julian Carter tried to kidnap my daughter to force my hand on the satellite defense contract, Victor whispered, his eyes flashing with lethal fury. And the man who saved her was the very man Carter ruined 7 years ago. Fate, Victor thought, had a dark, ironic sense of humor. Where is he now? Victor asked, standing up from his desk. That's the difficult part, Mr. Sterling, Arthur said, pulling up a live map of Lower Manhattan. After he left the alleyway, he dropped into the old abandoned subway tunnels beneath 8th Avenue. He knows every blind spot in the city's surveillance grid probably better than the city planners themselves. Searching for Ethan Vance in New York is like trying to hunt a ghost in a dark room. Ghosts still need to eat, Arthur, Victor replied coldly. He has no money, no home, and bruised knuckles. I don't want police, and I don't want armed teams chasing him down like a criminal. If we corner him like an animal, he will disappear deeper into the dark, or worse, defend himself. Victor turned to Marcus. Marcus, you and I are going to find him ourselves. Take 2 discreet vehicles. No sirens, no uniforms. Just you, me, and Arthur. Sir, Marcus cautioned softly, with all respect, Ethan Vance is a trained operative who has spent 7 years living off the grid. He won't react well to being cornered. He saved my daughter's life when he had every reason to walk away, Victor said, setting his hands flat on his desk. He is not a monster, Marcus. He is a warrior who was betrayed by the world. And it's time someone offered him a way back. For 3 days, Victor Sterling's private intelligence network worked silently across the city. Instead of searching high-end locations or using loud police dragnets, Arthur focused on low-frequency signals, soup kitchens in the Lower East Side, free medical clinics, and underground steam tunnels where the city's homeless sought refuge from the plummeting winter temperatures. On the 3rd evening, a report came in from a trusted street contact near the waterfront docks in Brooklyn. A tall, quiet man matching Ethan's build had been seen buying basic medical bandages and rubbing alcohol from a late-night pharmacy, paying with crumpled dollar bills earned from unloading fish crates at dawn. The rain had turned into a light, icy sleet by midnight when a single, unreadable black sedan pulled up quietly to the edge of an abandoned naval warehouse near the East River. The warehouse was a cavernous structure of rusted steel girders, broken glass windows, and rotting wooden crates. Deep inside, sheltered from the biting wind, a small fire crackled inside a rusted metal oil drum. Ethan Vance sat on an overturned plastic crate near the fire, a strip of clean cloth wrapped tightly around his left hand. A small tin can of beans was heating slowly over the embers. He didn't look up when the heavy iron door of the warehouse creaked open, admitting a gust of freezing wind and 2 pairs of footsteps. "You shouldn't have come here, Mr. Sterling," Ethan said, his voice a low, gravelly rasp that cut through the silence of the warehouse. Victor Sterling stopped 10 feet away from the fire, dressed in a heavy dark wool coat. Beside him stood Marcus, his hands resting naturally at his sides, his posture relaxed but attentive. Victor stared at the man sitting before him. Up close, the toll of 7 years on the streets was visible in the deep lines carved into Ethan's face, the grey threading through his thick beard, and the worn, frayed state of his clothing. But beneath the filth, Victor recognized the absolute stillness of a master tactician, a man whose eyes never stopped calculating exit routes, threat levels, and leverage points. "I see your instincts haven't faded, Commander Vance," Victor said respectfully. "Commander Vance died 7 years ago," Ethan replied flatly, poking a stick into the fire to adjust the tin can. "The man sitting here is just a trespasser in a condemned building. You're wasting your time." "You saved my daughter's life, Ethan," Victor said softly, taking a step closer. "Aria told me what happened. 6 armed men, military-grade gear, and you fought them off with a piece of scrap metal to keep an innocent girl from being taken." Ethan remained silent, staring intently into the dancing orange flames. "She looked like someone I couldn't save," he muttered, his voice dipping so low it was almost lost to the crackle of the wood. "It wasn't personal, Sterling. Go home to your daughter and hire better security." Marcus took a step forward, his voice carrying genuine humility. "He's right, Commander. I failed Miss Sterling that night. I was caught flat-footed. If you hadn't been there, she would be in Julian Carter's hands right now." At the mention of Julian Carter's name, Ethan's hand tightened subtly around the stick he was holding until the dry wood snapped in two with a sharp crack. Victor noticed the reaction instantly. "Julian Carter is getting desperate, Ethan," Victor said, his tone turning sharp and businesslike. "He wants my satellite defense patents, and he was willing to kidnap my 24-year-old daughter to blackmail me into surrendering Sterling Global. The police are investigating, but Carter operates behind a wall of high-priced lawyers, shell companies, and mercenary syndicates like Aegis Security. The law won't touch him in time." Ethan slowly raised his head. His cold, ice-blue eyes met Victor's gaze through the rising smoke of the fire drum. "Then hire an army, Sterling. You have $60 billion. buy enough muscle to flatten Carter's towers. I don't need an army of mercenaries who work for the highest bidder, Victor said firmly, taking 2 steps until he stood directly across the fire from Ethan. I need a man who knows how Julian Carter thinks. I need a man who built the very systems Carter stole. I need a guardian for my daughter, someone who cannot be bought, coerced, or intimidated. Victor reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a sleek, black leather folder, and extended it across the heat of the fire drum. Ethan didn't reach for it. What is that? A clean slate, Victor replied. Inside that folder is a full legal pardon draft from federal prosecutors, backed by my legal team. It includes a complete restoration of your identity, a private residence in Manhattan, full access to Sterling Global's advanced security infrastructure, and a position as Chief Security Officer for my family. Ethan let out a bitter, short laugh, shaking his head. I don't want your money, Sterling. And I don't want a seat in your corporate towers. I left that world behind because it's built on lies, greed, and blood. I'm not offering you a corporate job, Ethan, Victor said, his voice dropping into a quiet, intense plea. I am asking you, as a father who barely survived losing his child 3 nights ago, to protect my daughter. Carter will try again. Next time, he won't make the same mistake. He will send more men, heavier weapons, and deeper sausage. I can buy all the armored cars and ballistic glass in the world, but I cannot buy a soul willing to bleed for her. Silence stretched over the damp warehouse. The wind howled against the rusted iron roof outside, rattling the loose window frames. Ethan looked down at his calloused, dirty hands. He thought of his quiet, empty life on the streets, a slow, painful suicide in the cold. He thought of Clara's grave in Queens, covered in untended weeds. And then he thought of Julian Carter, sitting in his penthouse, sipping expensive cognac while planning his next strike against an innocent family. The ghost had slept for 7 years. But the fire inside him was no longer dead, it was a hungry flame waiting for a spark. Ethan reached across the oil drum, his bruised fingers taking the black folder from Victor's hand. If I do this, Ethan's voice rasped, cold and razor-sharp, we do it my way. No corporate interference. No political leash. When Carter comes for her, I handle him my way. Victor Sterling smiled, a cold, resolute smile that matched the winter frost outside. Welcome back to the light, Commander Vance.